So for step 5, the front uprights 1. Well, this is where we're going to be putting these together, and you can see that we've got our wheel axle, then we've got a couple of spacers, then there's ball bearings, then we go into the upright piece, we've got another ball bearing, and then we have this shim that goes on the outside. And the same thing again for the other side, and then we're going to place K9. So the hub, or what the hex pieces for the wheel attachments are going to go over top of that and attach. Now we have to do that twice, but we also have to come down here. If you grab F1 and F2, which are these pieces right here, we're going to need to drill out that hole, and it's showing that it needs to be a 2.5 millimeter drill bit. Now I have this pin vise, which I bought for the BBX build, so I'm going to be using that to drill out the hole. So here are the pieces we need. There's our axles, there's the spacers, there's the shims and the ball bearings, and of course the shafts. So I'll set this up and we'll put these together. So before I get started on this, I will say one thing. I wasn't 100% impressed with the diagram here, because these MA17s actually are more of a perfect fit for the diagram that are for the MA13s. And really the only way that you could tell that they were the correct ones were, you can see that the image is really thin and that's thicker. Well, these MA17s are extremely thin. So really that was the only way that you could tell that they were correct. The other thing is I could only find 2 of these, and they come in this bag here with this, you know, all these different sizes of ball bearings. The 2 shims are in there. So they are the correct ones, but technically they fit on the diagram picture of the MA13. So you're going to have to try and figure that out, because there are a lot of these things. So let's start with this side. So you can see that in terms of the way this is going to go, if I try and see how that's going to sit, that is sitting like that, with, you can see the sort of the circle piece on the end of that one, that's sitting there. So we know that if we grab one of the axles, we're going to grab one of the MA13s. We're going to put that on there. We're going to grab another of the MA13s. That's going to sit on there like that. So there's the 2 of them. Then it's going into a ball bearing, which actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that into here, make sure that that sits nice, and I'll use my box wrench, I think, to help put it into place. Yes, there we go. So you know that this is now going to go in through there, and the shims are on the side. Then we're going to put in another ball bearing on this side, pop that into place, and then you'll grab one of these MA17s, slide that over top, so that the shim is sitting there over the bearing. And then you can see that we're going to grab one of our shafts. That's going to go through the axle. I'm just going to hold that as level as I can. And then we're going to grab our K9 piece, and we're going to slide that over and push. So you can see that there's a little bit of clearance between that upright and the hub, but that is essentially it. There's our front wheel axle. So let's do the same thing with the other side. So same sort of idea. I don't think it actually matters which way you put it on, but let's put on our bearings. And this time I'm going to push it all the way down. I'm going to turn it over and actually get our bearing into place right away. And then we're going to grab our wheel axle. We're going to put on the two spacers, MA13s. And you can tell that they are a little thicker, both of those. And then that is going to go in this side. So it's going to sit over the bearing. And we now have our MA17 shim, which is really, really thin. That's going to go over top of that. Then we're going to grab our shaft. Let's do it this way. Grab our shaft. I'm going to hold that as level as I can while I grab the K9 piece. That's going to sit over top of there. Get it into place. And push. So there we go. So those are the two uprights complete. But then we have this. So this here is showing that you have to drill out. So if we hold this the way that they're showing it at the moment, let's just do it this way just because it's the same. You can see there's a little 4 on the diagram. There's the 4. So you have to drill this out at 2.5 millimeters. Now, using the pin vise, you can see that by putting that in there, you know that you just have to drill until you're through to the hole. But you'll notice that with a 2.5 millimeter drill bit, it actually just fits nicely inside of there. So let's do it. I'm going to, well, actually that didn't take much at all to get that drilled through. I thought it would, but it doesn't. So I'm through all the way there, and you can see the pin vise has gone right through the hole. So there we go, there's one, and it'll be the same thing for the other side. Now, they're asking you to drill it, but obviously that plastic down there is not very thick, because this doesn't take much pressure at all before it's actually through. I'm doing it slower this time just to make sure I don't go all the way through to the end, but you can see that I am through all the way. It's interesting that they want you to drill that out. Okay, well, that's it. I'm just gonna do this a bit to sort of clear it out, any of the excess plastic that's in there. But I'm okay with that. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. So that literally is step 5. So we're going to move now into step 6 and work on front uprights 2. So for front uprights 2, well, now we're going to take the uprights from the last step and we're going to attach them to the F1 and F2 piece. And you can see how this is all going to go with the, what they call them, a flange tube. Then we've got screws going into both ends. And then we have to put in this C2 piece onto the hub as well. And of course, we're going to do that for the other side as well. So there are the pieces that we need for this step. And I've taken one off the parts tree, the C2, but I haven't taken the other one off just so that I don't get the two confused. May not be necessary, but that's how I've done it. And then here we have our screws, the ball connectors, the spacers, the other ball connectors, and our flange tubes. So I'll set this up and we'll put this together. So when you're putting together step 6, you more or less have to do it the same way as how we did it in step 5, in that this piece, obviously if I hold this, that does not look like the piece up there. We want it so that we have that open end as we did before with that sort of circular piece on the side. Because when it comes to putting this together, notice that the longer end is at the bottom. Well, that's not this piece, because you need to have the image of the 4 on there, and then that is going to slide in and be put together like that. But in order to do this, you need to put in these flange tubes first. So we've got one that's going to sit there, and then we have another one that's going to come up from the bottom and sit there. Now, in order to do this, we obviously have to grab our MA5, and we've got, actually I'll just put this aside, I hope. We've got to grab this ball connector. We need the MA16 spacer to sit on the top. And now, same idea, I need to hold the top one in, and that's going to go in on the top, and then this is going to fit in on the bottom and underneath. But that flange tube needs to be sitting there in order for this to all work. So let's make sure that we can get that in there. Almost. There we go. Because the flange tube has to sit both top and bottom. So knowing that, I'm just going to give this a little bit of a turn here. Make sure that I can sort of get it in there so it's holding it together. And then from the bottom, we're going to be using one of these MA1 screws, because that's going to go into the bottom of that flange tube and into that upright. Just like that. So now I just want to make sure that that is moving correctly and it is looking correct. So now we can tighten it all up. And I'm going to go back and forth. I don't want to just tighten one end. I want to make sure that nothing's binding and it's all coming together correctly. Yep, and then I'll tighten this one up. Go all the way. Yep. And same thing with the top. Yep, it's in there solid. So now these are moving nice and smooth, but you can see we've got our ball connector at the top, and this has been attached with this screw. But those flange tubes are helping to keep this nice and smooth, which it does. It feels really good. So same idea on the other side, but let's first get this one on. So you can see that when you go to the bottom of the picture, you're seeing it this way with the ball connector at the top and this open area, which means that this C2 piece sits like that inside of that. And you can see on the other side, well, sort of, that the way this is shaped, it's fitting over top of that just like that, which means that we've got an MA1 screw again, which is going to fit there. Just make sure that sits there, yes. So we'll just screw this all the way down. Still some more to do. Well, that's down all the way. And then we have this MA7 ball connector, which is going to screw into the top here. I just want to make sure that's going in level, which it is not yet. Yep, that is. So now we can screw this in all the way. And once you're at the end, you'll know. And so that means that this will look like that. Interesting design. Okay, so that's one of them done. Let's move on to the other one. So on this side, same idea. So now we're going to grab this, and we know that that's going to face backwards. We know that in this piece, you can see that the 4 is upright, just like that, correct way, and the longer end is at the bottom. We know that the flange tube is going to go down there, and another one is going to sit up at the top, just like that. Now I'm going to hold or put that on its side for a moment while I grab the screw and our spacer. And then that's going to go into there. And then obviously that is going to fit into the top. Now before I put that in, I need to make sure that I can get this into place first. And I've got to squeeze that between the two flanged tubes. Well, this time it's not so easy. So let's go back to this. We know that that has got to fit in between. So that was interesting. Just because of the way this was done, the piece that was falling out all the time, I had to turn this upside down and then slowly try to twist it in, but I couldn't do it with the camera in the way. I couldn't see it. So I've done that now and twisted it back, so that's fine. So now we can go back to what we were doing, where we're going to put this screw ball connector with our spacer into the top of there, which I will screw the first little bit into, just so that we've got it in there. And then we're going to grab one of the MA1s, and that's going to go down below and screw into the upright as well. So now that it's kind of going in pretty good, I'm going to screw these in all the way. That's pretty much in all the way. And same thing with this one, which you can just go all the way and then it'll be in the correct position. And of course it's nice and smooth. So I'm just doing one final turn, make sure that's correct, and it is. So there we go. There is our 4 in the correct position, and it's now moving correctly. So based on the diagram, you can see that we're going to turn this around. We know that this piece is going to sit there, just like on the other side. Now, one of the things I'm going to do slightly differently is I'm going to put on our ball connector right away. So we know that that is going to sit right there. So I'm just going to make sure that I've got this going in correctly, which it's not quite yet. Nope, that is not level at all. Nope, not quite. There we go. There we go. There's our ball connector nicely attached. And again, I'm going to grab this. We know that based on the way this is going to be, that it's going to sit there like that and fit over top of there. And that means that we can use this screw here. And we're going to screw this into place. Good. I'll just do one more turn just to make sure. But it is in all the way. So there is the other one. So there are our uprights ready to go. So that means that step 6 is complete. So now we're going to move on to step 7 and attach the front uprights.